Your faces here. We are going to get started today with making better business decisions with Google Analytics. So this topic is going to cover not only how you set up this analytics platform, but also some of the data points you should be looking for, and then how to use them to implement in your business to make some decisions on how you're going to manage and market your business. Okay, so we have Elena Capasso, who is our moderator for today, and she's the marketing training counselor, coordinator. And there are 3 ways you can get your questions answered during this workshop. 1, you can pop them in the chat. 2, we'll take some breaks throughout the presentation where you can ask your questions and we'll answer them as we go along. And then the last way to do it is just to send an email to Elena, and this will work best if you're looking for more specific one-to-one. If a question is more specific to your business and you're looking for some one-to-one counseling, this would be a great place to go because Elena can then let you know how to connect with a business counselor to get that one-on-one business mentorship. As Elena said, my name is Amanda Bass, and I am an outreach and marketing specialist with the Small Business Administration in the Rhode Island District Office. We're located in downtown Providence, and this is my email. You will get the slide, so you don't have to write this down. You can get it after and send me an email, but it's just my first name dot last name at sba.gov. All right, so let's get going. Data makes your briefcase heavy. Insights make you rich. And data is lovely, and it's great to have as many insights you can. However, if it lives in a PDF or it lives in an interface and you're not doing anything with it, it's not really going to help you much. So the goal of this workshop is to show you some key metrics you should be looking for, how to interpret them, and then how to grow your business, right? You don't want to be lugging around all this data. You want to be implementing them. So this should help you get going. So data will tell you a story. Now, when we're looking at our analytics, right, and right now we're talking about Google Analytics, our website analytics, we're going to be thinking about how visitors get to and behave on your website. So this is where they're from. This is how they found you. What topics on your website are they finding most, but also least interesting? And what's sparking their curiosity. So you'll be able to map out how everybody's behaving on your website, where they're coming from, how long they're staying, and that can give you some insight into how you want to manage your website, the type of content you want to put on your website, and also what your marketing strategy could be. So we're just going to go over the agenda. We're going to talk about the intro to Google Analytics, and this is just understanding how this platform can help you make these decisions, getting into your account and understanding what all of these buttons look like and what they mean, some of the features and how to do some basic reporting, how to use the Google Analytics search box. This is a new tool that they have updated. For those of you who have used Google Analytics for a while, which previously was called Universal Analytics, now it's GA4. They kind of updated the interface, but now they implemented this search tool, which makes navigating the platform so much easier. We're going to touch very quickly on how to use this data with Google Ads. This is in case you are running ads or if you're thinking about it, just some cool tricks that you can use to integrate these 2 platforms. And then we're going to recap with some resources, and then there'll be some time for questions along the way. So let's get into it. So the first thing you want to do is, and we talk about this on almost every workshop I give, it doesn't matter what your strategy is if you're not measuring your starting point, right? So you always want to measure where you're beginning and setting these goals so you can evaluate the success of your campaigns, the success of your strategies. It also gives you the opportunity to say, maybe we need to pivot. Right? So when you know where you're starting from and you have these goals set, you're able to make decisions because you're able to look at your starting, your middle, and your end, and you're able to look at that data and say, okay, maybe it's time to push a little bit harder on this, or maybe it's time to pivot. So when we're thinking about our goals, we want them to be SMART. This is a basic concept. However, this is how you set goals in your business in order to be able to reach them, right? To make a plan to reach them, to implement that strategy. So the first one is specific. You want to be very specific with what your goal is. And that could be depending on where your business is at its growth stage, right? Like if you're a very new business, your strategy or your specific goal might be to increase your traffic to your website. If you've been in business for a while, maybe your goal is to start to scale, right? Start to enter into new markets. It's measurable. I don't want you to say, I want to grow my business or I want to grow my revenue over the next 90 days. I want you to be very specific about that goal. I want you to say, I want to increase my month-over-month traffic by 20%. I want to increase the visitors' time on my website by 2 minutes. I want to increase the time they spend going through the funnel by this amount. So you want to make sure it's very measurable. So that way, when you're looking back and you're measuring up your goals, you can know if you hit or if you miss, right? A lot of times, small businesses will implement a marketing campaign, set it live, and then look back in 6 months and be like, well, that didn't work. Well, if you don't have a very specific and measurable goal, what part of your campaign did or did not work? And how do you know how to pivot? How do you know what to change or what to add? You also want to make sure it's attainable. I don't want you to go out, and I, of course, want you to be ambitious, but I also want you to be realistic, right? Because all of these so-called gurus online that are going to tell you you're going to go from 0 to 50 million in 90 days with their course or with this strategy, it's very unlikely, right? So I want you to be realistic, but I also want you to have a reach, right? So I want you to think about pushing yourself a little, right? So the goal is attainable, but I want it to be a little bit of a push. So that way you're really doubling down. And what that means is, if you say, I think I can realistically grow my business traffic by 20%. I can realistically grow my sales revenue by 15%. I can realistically increase my conversion rate by 1 or 2 points, right? So these are the types of goals that we're talking about. You also want it to be relevant to your business. Again, this goes back to where you are in your stage of business. If you are in the earlier stages of business, thinking about a scaling goal isn't super relevant to what you have going on. However, if you are an established business and you're starting to say, for example, think about your holiday campaigns, right? And this would be a relevant goal to say, I want my Black Friday ads to go live by this date and generate X amount of dollars in sales, right? So you want it to also be relevant to where you are in your business and to your specific business, right? So every different type of business, whether it's service, whether it's product, right? It has to be relevant to your business. So if you are a service-based business, your goal might look a little different than someone who, say, has an e-commerce business. And then I want you to put a time on it. So I like to think about your business in a year, right? Like, what are your end of year goals? And then back that up by quarter and start to break those goals down. So then you can build upon them. But you want them to be time-based, right? I don't want you to say, I want to make $1 million in my business and then have no end date. I want you to be very specific so that way you can back up all of the activities and all of the strategies you need to do to hit those goals. So what are your goals? Now, oftentimes when you're thinking about how you want to grow your business, the first thing that comes to mind is sales. And that's a great goal to have. However, I also want you to think about the other opportunities you could use to grow your business, right? Do you want to generate more leads to your business, right? This is all a numbers game. So you understand, in order for you to get 10 leads, you need to have 50 people visit your website who are going to enter the information, for example, right? Is it appointments? Do you want to set 10 sales calls per week, right? Do you want to do it that way? Phone calls, right? Do you have a business where people pick up the phone, right? For example, if you have something with like water or fire restoration or like emergency plumbing, like those types of businesses, you're not wanting somebody to fill out a lead form and then it gets to you and then you call them back. So you have to understand also the sales cycle in your business to understand which goal makes sense. It could be foot traffic, right? Especially now with the weather cooling down and people being outside more and spending time in neighborhoods versus being at the beach. Maybe you want to increase your foot traffic. And then maybe you have a download, right? Do you have an ebook? Do you have a course? Do you have something that you want people to exchange their email in exchange for something you're giving them in order to list, build, and grow your business? So I want you to think about all of your business goals, and you might have multiple strategies for multiple goals, right? You might also say that because you have a sales goal, you understand that you need to increase your leads by this much. And that means you need to increase your traffic by this much, which means your conversion rate needs to be this. So when you're thinking about this, I don't want you to think about it in an isolated way, right? Think about like what you need to do in order to reach your business goals. It might be a combo. It might be one. You might focus on one for the next, 60, 90 days, and then you move on to the next, right? So think about holistically how you want your business to look and then back into those goals. So what is Google Analytics? Now, every website has a backend analytics, right? So if you go on the back end of your website or your dashboard, you'll have some basic analytics. However, Google Analytics is a free online tool where you add a piece of code to your website and it does all this tracking for you. Every behavior on your website or app. It'll track where people are coming from, the keywords they use to get there, how long they're spending on your page, where they're going when they get on your page, the flow from page to page. It has a wealth of knowledge. And the fun thing is that it only starts tracking once you place that code. So if you've been in business for years, it's not going to be retroactive. So the sooner you get this code on your website, it can begin tracking. And, I'm not asking any of us in the room to be naive. I understand, like, we are giving Google data in exchange for this information to help our business grow, right? Like, we know Google's collecting data on us, whether you will like it or not. At least this tool allows you to have access to your data so you can make some decisions about your business. So why use Google Analytics if your website already has analytics? And the answer is because your website's analytics are never going to be as robust as Google Analytics. I've been in the back end of pretty much every platform, website builder, WordPress there is out there, and the backend analytics is never going to be as robust. It's just not. Some of them are better than others, right? So you have some platforms like Shopify for e-commerce that are better than others. However, Google Analytics is really going to help you understand how your website visitors are behaving throughout every page, every nook and cranny of your website. You can also learn from that data, right? If you understand how people are behaving on your website, you can understand how you can improve, right? Like if you notice that people are visiting your homepage and then going straight to your FAQs, that could be a signal that whatever's on your homepage is not giving them the information they need to make the next step, right? So the next time you're doing website changes, you could say, I would like to add this additional content on my homepage to try to reduce that friction and that path to purchase. And as you do this, you can make better business decisions, right? Like if you understand that people take 12 minutes on this page to get the information they need before they go to purchase, maybe you could streamline that page a little bit to help them along the way. So these are just things to think about. So you can use Google Analytics to understand what type of content your audience is interested in. And then, should you be creating more similar content to that? Or if you are noticing that you're getting sales from one sales channel, organic or a paid ad or social media or your email marketing, you know where to invest your time, efforts. And then that allows you to focus on the right marketing channels, right? Or you could even say, I'm not getting as much organic traffic as I would like. I'm going to put some attention on building my organic footprint online, right? So you could say, I know I'm not strong there, but that's where I would really like to invest my time. And over the next 90 days, that's what I'm going to invest in. I'm going to invest in some SEO and some organic strategy. So you're able to make these business decisions on where you should be investing not only your marketing dollars, but your time, really, which is the most important one, right? So when you're setting it up for the first time, you can go to g.co/analytics, or you can just type in Google Analytics. It'll be the first thing that pops up. You can click on the link when you get this document, and then you're just going to hit get started. If you've ever set up a Google anything, you know that it walks you through step by step. So whether you've done your business profile or a Google ad, it really is once you hit one piece of information, it brings you to the next page. And then the one thing you have to focus on is when it says set up your property, it's going to give you a unique piece of code that goes on your website. Usually, if you have like a Squarespace or any of the builders, there is a specific space on the back end for you to enter that code. If you have WordPress, you may have to get like a widget, or you might have to have your developer place it on the header of your page. So depending on where your website is built, that will be dependent on where you place this code. If you're not sure, you could always go to the Google machine and type in the name of your website builder and then put in your Google Analytics code. And also, you could also go to the Grow with Google YouTube channel, and you can type it in there, and then you'll find specific instructions on how to upload it specific to your website interface. Do we have any questions before we move on to understanding your account?
If anyone has a question, feel free to come off mute or put it in the chat.
All right. You
I
can
have a
always
quick
pop
question.
that in the chat. Oh, wait, did I hear someone?
Yes, it's me, Rose.
Hi.
Hi. My question has to do with whenever I go to my Google business page, there's this section on the little dashboard thing that says Business Profile Manager. Is that the same? Because with this, I can see uh, some information on there when I go into it. Let me see. There's 148 customer interactions. So when I click on that button there, I'll see like how many people have visited. Is this the same as what you're talking about, or is this a completely different thing that I have to sign up for?
This sounds like your Google Business Profile Manager, like your Google Business Profile before was Google My Business, right? That's what it sounds like you're in right now.
Yes.
You'll know 100% when I move to the next slide and you see what the back end looks like. If it does not look like what you're looking at, it's a different thing. So your Google Business Profile manages the organic side. When people type in your business name, you'll have the map, right, with similar businesses, and you'll have the top 3 businesses that match, right? So if you're a dog groomer and you type in dog groomer in Portsmouth, the top 3 will pop up with the map on the side. This is the back end. This is different. This is the back end of the analytics for how website visitors are behaving on your website.
Awesome.
So
Thank you
completely
so
different. And you'll also know by the URL. So if you look at the top of the URL, it should say analytics.google/ and then whatever bunch of numbers. If it doesn't say that, you're not in the same place.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem. We
Thank
have
you
a poll.
for your question. Yeah, I was just going to point out the poll. If you can answer that, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Right. So when you get into the back end of your Google Analytics, and Rose, this should kind of answer your question very quickly, because if the back end doesn't look like this, I'm pretty sure wherever you are is not where analytics is based on what you shared. This is what the home screen looks like on Google Analytics. Now, no matter where you are in the account, if you hit home, it'll bring you back here. So the nice thing about Google Analytics is you can't mess up, right? So if you start clicking on stuff and you're afraid you ruined your account, I can promise you, you have not. In order to make any long-standing changes in your account, you have to go through the admin panel. So, and then when it asks you, like, for example, if you're going to save a report or something, you have to go through a few steps. So no matter where you click on, if you find yourself in a deep, dark hole and you don't know how to get out of it, either click the little house for the home button or just go back to your URL and type in analytics.google.com and it'll reset you. So that's the easiest way to navigate it, because sometimes once you start clicking around, they don't have really a strong back button. So, you know, typically if you go to a website and you start clicking around and you want to back out, you hit the back a few times. That's not always going to work on Google Analytics. So the best thing to do if you're not sure where you led yourself, just hit that home button and it'll bring you back home. And this is the easiest way I like to star this. So if you could see right here on the URL, like when you get to your home page, I like to just bookmark it. So that way it's easy to find. Sometimes, you know, things get lost or you can't remember, is it analytics.google, google.analytics? Google's really good about leading you there. However, for simplicity, I recommend just starring it, bookmarking it, so that way you can get to it very quickly. The next section is reports. And this is a really cool tool where if you know you look for the same data over and over again, there's an easier way to do it. So you can create a report and it kind of sets your parameters. So if you say, I only want to know information about visitors that come from Newport that are searching for dog grooming, right? Like you only want to monitor the traffic from that segment of people. You can set up a report so that way you can monitor your traffic for that segment. If you want to say, I only want to look at people who spend more than 5 minutes on my page that come from these 5 zip codes, you can set up that report. So you can set up almost any report you can think of, and you just go to reports and then you just set it up and then you hit save, and then it'll be a quick action for you. So when you go in, you can just look at that same set of data over and over again. This is really great if, say, you want to increase traffic from people from Cranston, right? Like you're growing your market in Cranston and you want to track to see how that's going. You can set up a report that's tracking your visitors from Cranston, so you can see how your week over week or day over day or month over month traffic is growing from that area. And it makes it easier than going in and typing in a zip code and doing it over and over again. You're also able to have some standard reporting, and you can add some filters, you can add comparisons. So if you want to say, I want to track how users 25 to 35 behave on my website versus 50 plus, right? You can do that as well. You can also add some filters in there. So if you're like, I'm only interested in people who go to 3+ pages, right? I'm only interested in people who have this path. You can do that as well. And then the date range is really important, right? So if you're looking at, say, a week of data and you want to compare the previous week, you can do the comparisons. You can also say, I want to look. So say you have like every year you have Black Friday specials, and you want to look at what your traffic looked like leading up to there compared to what your Black Friday specials are now. You can do that. So you can look back years, right? So if you can say, I know February 14th is my biggest sales day every year. I want to look at this year's versus last year's, or last year's versus the year before. You can also do that. One thing to remember to take into account is day shifting. So February 14th this year, say it was a Wednesday, that means last year was a Tuesday. So you want to make sure you're day shifting, because sometimes, or if you're looking just Friday over Friday of that, say the second Friday over the second Friday, you're going to be looking at like the 15th versus the 16th, or the 15th versus the 14th. So just make sure you're double confirming your comparison dates. And then you can save all of these. You can save pre-filters. Again, so that way you can save some time. And then you can watch real time what's happening. So the fun thing about Google Analytics is that it's really real time. So you can log in right now and see exactly who is on your website and where they are. So what that means is that you can see the number of people who are on a page. It's not going to say John Smith from Smithfield is on this page. It's just going to give you a number. So that's just important to remember. So say you're running a campaign right now and you go live, right? And you want to see how many people are clicking and going on your website or taking that action. You can go live. This is really important, especially if you're spending money on ads, right? And especially if you're spending a good amount of money on ads, you want to be able to go in there and say, okay, people are actually coming and making these processes. One thing to remember is that the data you get in your other interfaces are not always going to line up 100%. So Google will give the disclaimer that it'll be plus or minus 10%. So if your website builder is saying 50 people are going to your website and Google Analytics is saying 53, it's not that there's something wrong with your code. It's just that there's always going to be that little discrepancy between the data. I would trust analytics more than I trust a backend, just because their data source is so huge, right? Like they're tracking so many websites and so many people that I would find this more reliable. You can also look at acquisition, and this is how people are how they're finding you, right? So you're able to see if they're coming to you from direct. That means people are going on to the Google and saying www.yourwebsite.com. You also have referral, and that's when another website has your website linked, right? So if you're looking, you ever read an article and it'll say this face wash is from this company, and you click on it, that is referral traffic. So that's why that link building part of your SEO strategy is so important, because you get referral traffic from that. Organic search is when people are typing in your business product, right? You're a dog groomer and they're typing in dog grooming. You can see that they're coming in through organic search, and then you can see what those keywords are. So if you think your top 3 keywords are one thing, but people are finding you another way, that could be a signal that some of the content you have to create, or some of the headers on your page, some of the descriptions on your page might need to shift a little more to be more aligned with how people are looking to find you. You also have page search. These are all your ad opportunities: Facebook ads, Google ads, YouTube ads, Bing ads, all the ads, right? And then you have organic video. That's if people are finding you through YouTube. That's not a paid video. And this is really important. How people are finding you is really important, because if your acquisition is not balanced, right? Like if you're getting 80% of your traffic from ads, is that sustainable, right? You might need to invest a little bit more in some other strategies in order to kind of balance out. You also can find engaged sessions, and this is people who spend more than 10 seconds or click on more than one page. So you're able to see the average time they're spending on your page, and then the average engagement per session. And this is just a numbers game. So they're saying on average, people visit 1.7 pages in this example. So that means more people are visiting 2 pages than are visiting 1. Excuse me. So that's how they do that calculation. So obviously you can't see 0.7 of a page, but they're doing averages, right? So one of your goals could be an engagement goal where you want to get people to hit that 2+ mark. And this will tell you how much time they're spending on each page. If you have an e-commerce aspect of your business, you have the monetization, it'll give you the average order value, your total revenue for whatever dates you choose. You can have it give your in-app purchases. You could have it listed by like your highest to lowest purchases. So if you're selling, $50 products, and then you have a couple of $100 products on your website, it can give you the average order value. And then you can make some decisions to say, maybe you need to like upsell or cross sell. If people are interested in this product, they might also be interested in this product. So that can give you an idea of how your site is monetized. This retention, this is a big one, especially when, remember, we're talking about those goals, right? You want them to be smart, right? So when you're looking at how many are new visitors versus returning visitors, this can help you make some decisions. So if one of your goals is to increase traffic, however, your returning visitors are outweighing your new visitors, then you know that you have to implement some new strategies to get some fresh visitors on your website. So this is also important because you can make some decisions about how you want to retarget people or remarket to them, right? Or how to get people back to your website. If you know that it takes people 2 to 3 visits on your website to make a purchase, right? Based on your data, then you need to get those returning users up and you need to invite them back. So whether that means you're implementing an email campaign or you're implementing a new social strategy, these are the kind of decisions you can make on what you should be doing in your business based on your data. Tech. This is an important one, right? How are people viewing your website? Like if this isn't, this is really important. If you know that, say, in this example, 79.9% of users are using an Android, and yet you go on your phone and the interface of your website is not super user-friendly, but it's beautiful on a desktop, you're really missing the mark, right? You're missing potential sales because your tech is not aligning with how people are behaving on your website and finding your website. So it's super important when you're designing your website to make sure that it's also optimized for mobile, right? We're heading more towards mobile first, right? All of this GA4 whole rollout was because it was prioritizing mobile and app usage, right? We're seeing you have to download an app for everything, right? I'm not downloading one more app. So it's like, this is designed for this. This data can help you make some decisions. If you know that more people are using one device over another, and you know that Android screen looks different than an Apple screen, then maybe you need to be optimizing for a bigger view, or the opposite, a smaller view, right? Like if the screen on that phone is just a tad bit smaller and your button is just out of reach, you know that you're potentially losing sales because people are not able to find your button, your sales button. So you want to make sure you're looking and taking this data and then going back and evaluating and saying, oh man, like that makes sense. I'm having all these people come from an Android and no purchases. And when you're looking at it from an Android view, your button is not in view. So these are all the types of data you should be looking at to help you make decisions for the feel of your website. And you can even go down to operating system, right? Like, so if you know that people that use your product are super tech savvy and they always have the most updated phone and operating system, that gives you some data into the type of person who's interested in your product or service. So you can make some really cool decisions based on this data. So we're going to dig into understanding your data, but I want to pause for questions. That was a
Samantha,
lot.
we did have a question.
Yeah.
Francesca had one. Feel free to come off mute if you would like to ask it, or I could also read it.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So my question is,
All right, so next we're going to cover some of the data points for you to start to understand. So your bounce rate versus your engagement rate. And this is one of the key performance indicators, or a KPI. And this measures the percentage of visitors that only access one page or spend less than 10 seconds on your page. That's called a bounce. So this often happens if your page loads super slow, right? This is a clue. So if you're noticing your bounce rate is like 90 something percent, you probably have a speed issue. And I recommend you do a speed test on your website. Have you ever gone to a website that takes too long to load and you're like, I'm out of here, right? Like we just don't have patience nowadays. This is called a bounce. So that's an important thing to look at, because if you're noticing a super high bounce rate, then that's an indicator that one, your page is not loading correctly, or what they thought they were going to get when they got there is not it. Right? You ever go to click on a website, you think you're going to get red shoes and you get there and it's blue shoes, and then you just exit right away, right? So you want to make sure that everything is aligned so that what people think they're clicking for is what they're going to get. You don't want to be deceptive because it hurts you in the long run. If Google starts to notice that people are clicking and they're bouncing really quickly, you'd lose SEO rankings, which means you're just going to drop in those search results, and then eventually your traffic is going to decrease. So an engagement is people who either triggered a conversion event. That means they entered in a lead, they downloaded something. If you have an ebook, or one of those other ways that they made a call, right, or they made a purchase, triggered a conversion event. Again, remember, conversion is not always a sale. A sale is always a conversion, right? So your conversion could be 2+ pages on visiting more than 2 pages on your website. A conversion could be they entered their email to get an ebook. A conversion could be they picked up the phone to call you, or it could be a sale. And then an engagement is also someone who visited 2 or more pages. So even if they spend 5 minutes on your homepage, Google doesn't count that as an engaged session, even though it's longer than 10 seconds, because they didn't do that extra step of spending more time. So you'll also notice this when you see, like, you ever go log onto a website and you say, I am just loading this website, so when I'm laying in my bed later, I can open that page and remember what I was looking for. Right? That even though Google counts that as a bounce, when you go back and actually engage, that returning user will pop up. And so there's other ways to find out how people are behaving on your site. Page views. This is the number of pages someone is viewing. So this is really great if you're trying to figure out what types of content you need to offer, how you structure your pages. If you're realizing people are like going to 5 pages and then they're getting stuck somewhere, then that's a clue that the type of content, you need to push them a little bit further by maybe providing different content, improving your content, answering their questions before they have them. You always want to answer their questions before they even think about questions, right? You always want to be thinking about objections and how to get those answered as soon as they get there, so that way they don't have time to second guess their decision. So if you look here, this is what a page view looks like. You could see event count is the number of page views versus the total users, right? So you'll know it's one divided by the other. So you have 158 pages reviewed by 28,000 users. That means they, on average, saw 5.8 pages. And then you can also see like how they're behaving days a month, right? Again, you can always control the filters, you can control the dates, and you can always add comparisons. So if you're looking at different data points and you want to see how you're performing this week or this month versus the previous week or month, you can always add that in here to look at your data. Your conversion rate, this is when they make a completion, right? So that is not always a sale. So if they sign up for something, if they subscribe to something, if they download something, if they make a phone call, conversions are really important to track, but just remember that conversions are not always sales, right? So when you're evaluating the success of something, always remember that you want to evaluate based on your goal and what your objective was. But a sale is always a conversion, right? You're always trying to grow your sales, but there might be some step points before a sale that people need to take before they make that investment. This could also really be dependent on your service or business. If you have a higher price point or product or service that requires a little bit more education or a little bit more decision making, there might need to be some additional steps that lead to a sale before they actually make the purchase. Engagement time, and this is the time per active user in the time selected. That sounds really like a mouthful. That just means that the number of visitors versus how much time was on your site, they divide that number and they know on average that a user is spending X amount of time on your website. So you're able to see this by session. And what's really important about this data point is if you know that people need to spend 5 minutes on your website and that gives them enough time to poke around and make a decision, and you start to notice people are taking more time to make a decision, again, you might have to go back and kind of restructure the information you're giving to them or help them along the purchase path. So when you're looking at it in real time, this is what your back end will look like. It'll tell you how much on average each session is and the average sessions per user. Again, when we were talking about having a browser open and you're clicking back and forth or you're clicking away and coming back, those are those engaged sessions. So, you know, if people are not spending a ton of time on your website, for example, if you are a pizza shop, you don't really expect people to spend a whole lot of time on your website, right? They probably need to go on your website, find your phone number or find your menu, and then make a decision. So you're not expecting them to spend 5 minutes on your website. But if you are event planning or something that requires a little bit more time or education, you could, if you're only getting 52 seconds, then that's a clue that maybe you need to improve what you're offering people when they land there. So really it's dependent on your industry. So I don't want you to see 52 seconds and think, oh, that's really awful, because for some businesses, that's not, right? Like if all you need is a phone number to call, for example, like if you're an electrician and you have like an emergency line, you need people on your website for 10 seconds to find your phone number, right? So like if they're spending 52 seconds and you know it should take them 10 seconds, and that means where you have your phone number positioned is not ideal. So this is how you start to make some of these data-driven decisions. And if you're not sure what benchmarks are for your industry, if you Google your industry benchmark, time on website, engagement time, there are so many resources out there to kind of give you an idea of where you should try to land. If you're analyzing behavior, this is really fun because you could start to see, it will path it for you and show you visually where people are landing, where they're going next. Are they going back and forth and then forward and then back and forth? You can see all of this. And then you can be like, oh, whatever they're looking for here, they found back here. So maybe you need to add an extra line here, or maybe you need a whole new page, right? You can start to think about how people are behaving and why. You always want to look at that why. And like, you want to reduce that friction. You want people to make a decision. And the best way to do that is to give them the information they need to make that decision versus having them click around your website for 12 minutes. You can also add dimensions. So if you're like, I want to see how women behave on my page versus men, right? I want to see how this device works versus this. Or you can say, I want to know if you have like a business in East Bay and you want to know how people in Warren are behaving versus how people in Bristol are behaving, you could add those dimensions as well to kind of compare and contrast and make some decisions. So we're going to take a look at that. This, when you see this, can look so overwhelming, right? Like, I don't want you to be overwhelmed by any of this. Google Analytics is fun in the way that it just takes, it's like you got to get used to the person, right? You just got to get used to their personality. In Google's personality is it overwhelm, right? But if you go in here and make it a habit to spend 10, 15 minutes in here a day, get familiar with the interface, some of this data is going to start to jump out at you, right? When you see like this big group of people and how they're behaving, you start to get some insights. So then you're able to look at it as where they're starting, right? Their country, where they're going for their first interaction and their second interaction. So you know that if people are starting at home, right, and then they're going over to your signing page, and then from there they're going to the store, and maybe you're like, maybe I the preferred path is 100% of people are signing in and then going to the store. Maybe you want to redirect them somewhere else, and you start to think about what your design flow looks like and how you're laying out your information. We're going to take a quick break for questions. We're going to talk about the Google Analytics search box. And this is something that's kind of exciting for me, because for a lot of us that were on Google Universal Analytics, right, they kind of pulled the plug on us. They were looming this over our heads for like 2 years. They're like, everyone's going to have to switch soon. And then July of last year, it was the cutoff, right? And they stopped collecting and analyzing data on Universal Analytics. Everybody was forced over to GA4, but the interface is so different that so many business owners spent years getting familiar with Universal Analytics and then this new interface, and you're like, I can't find anything. So the Google search box is what they call analytics intelligence, not AI, but it is AI, the initials are AI. But you're able to search in plain language. And what that means is if like you're looking for user behavior on mobile devices, you can literally type in anything in plain language and it'll find it for you. So this search box is really fun, because when you get in there and you have no idea where to start, but you're like, I just want to know where people are coming by zip code, you can type that in and get it going really quickly, set up a report, bookmark it, and then you don't have to spend tons of time poking around. So this is really fun because you're able to find data quickly. You can get answers so fast. So if you just go in and start typing, it'll pull up what you need. And then it'll also give you your recently viewed, and then it'll also give you some frequently asked. So if you're not even sure where to begin, if you look at the very bottom of that, it'll give you some of the things. So what are the top cities by user, right? It'll give you some suggestions. So if you're not sure where to start, you can start there. It'll also pull up your recently viewed. So if you're looking at the same data points over and over again, as soon as you click into that box, it'll pop up and give you your recent searches. If you're not sure where or what to look for, the Help Center is pretty good. But what I would really say is that Grow with Google YouTube page, they have so many videos on everything. I really recommend spending some time in there and just typing in what you need, and it really makes it easy. But you can get instant answers if you're looking for a specific report. As I said, you can only make changes in those admin pages, but they kind of bury them and you have to click around. And if you're not wanting to click around, if you just type in that admin page, it'll bring you right there. If you're looking for your property configuration and that's how your account is set up and you're not sure where to find it, this search box, this analytics intelligence is super helpful. You're also able to set up alerts. So if you're noticing or you want to be notified based on a user behavior, you can set up an alert. So that way you're not constantly monitoring and being in here. So if you want to say, I want a notification when traffic increases by 10%, right? You can get an alert. Or if you want to say, I want an alert when my traffic drops by 10%, because sometimes a page will stop working and you won't know. Right? You'll just get people visiting your website and you'll get all these bounces on a page and you can't figure out why. You can set up alerts so that way you're always in the know. And then they'll be in the account, you'll get them. There's like a little bell up here, like a little notification, and also they'll email them to you. So make sure you check your email. And then you're also able to do explorations. And this is where you can build segments. And what this means is if you're wanting to just say, like, I'm looking for people who come from paid traffic, who are women, who live in this zip code, who land on the homepage, and then purchase within 5 minutes. You can set up those explorations, because then you can create specific segments or audiences that you then market only to that segment of your website users. Because if you know these are super users and they purchase frequently and they spend the time you want on their website, you can create these segments where you can create like audiences, and then you only market to those segment of people, which can be fun. So we're going to go really quickly into Google Ads, because this is a quick little overview. you are able to link your Google properties. And what that means is you're able to create these custom audiences and segments and then send them to your Google ads. So then that way you're able to create custom audiences in your ads to only send ads to those specific people. So say you only want to send ads to people who visit your website and don't make a purchase. You can create that audience in Google Analytics and send it to Google Ads, and then they'll create that audience in Google Ads, and then you market only to that segment. And it will allow you to incorporate some of that AI, because the people who will click on an ad are not always the same people who are going to visit your website organically or through referrals. So you're able to kind of mix these audiences and increase your reach. And then you're able to see if your ads are converting or not. So the way you do that is you go into your admin tag and you just link them. It's really simple. And then when you're in your Google Ads, it'll automatically send all of your analytics data over, your website behavior data. So then you can create these custom audiences. All right, we'll take quick questions before we wrap up. And where do you go from here? The first thing you're going to do is set up your Google Analytics. And then you're going to start to set goals for your marketing strategies, and then start to learn what's most valuable to your business. And then you can measure. So it just is like you set your starting point, understanding how your people are behaving, setting your goals, executing your campaigns. Sometimes you have to test things, right? It's very rare to hit a home run with your first campaign. So I don't want you to be discouraged, right? Like if you put together a marketing strategy to grow a part of your business and you don't hit that mark, I don't want you to be discouraged or think it doesn't work. You might just have to evaluate some of the steps you took to get there and pivot a little bit. And it might be that your time part of your SMART goal just needed to be a little bit longer. It's very rare to hit a home run. Sometimes you have to change your call to action. Sometimes you have to change where a video is on your webpage. Sometimes you have to change your header. So start to think about how you interact when you're visiting websites, right? How do you like to find information? How do you like to see information? And then start to organize your page that way. And if it's working, do more of that. And if it's not, if you notice suddenly people are bouncing, the change you made, it doesn't make sense. So always be in that testing and trying new things mindset. So we're going to do a recap in resources. The first page this is where all of this information comes from. This is a Grow with Google. Elena and I, the SBDC, and I are partners with Grow with Google. And their Grow with Google YouTube page is a wealth of knowledge. Like seriously, like go in there, any of your Google questions, whether it's your Google business profile, Google Analytics, Google Ads, anything Google, if you go on there and search directly in the channel, you'll find a ton of information. These will also be clickable, so you can go through if you want to dig a little deeper into these specific ones, you can go in. And then this is what the channel looks like. And you don't see it here, but this is the general search button. Google, if you click this little button right here, has an option to search just in a channel, right? You're able to search just information on that channel. So you're not searching the entire YouTube atmosphere. So this is really great to know, because then you're able just to find things just on this channel. Again, I'm from the Rhode Island SBA, and our office is in downtown Providence. We have somebody there 5 days a week, so you're more than welcome to walk in and get help from one of us. You're also able to visit our website, the sba.gov/RI. This is where you'll find all of our trainings, everything we have going on in the state. And then if you have any questions, you can email the general email box, or you can email me directly, which would be the third slide in the presentation, and just shoot me an email. We also have resource partners across the state. I'll start with the SBDC since we're here. If you have questions and you want to figure out how this applies specifically to your business, right? How can you take some of this and get it working in your business? I encourage you to become a client of the SBDC. They'll pair you up with a one-to-one mentor, and they'll help you walk through all of this, not just marketing information. This is like any area of your business, no matter what phase of business you're in. If you need help with your finances, if you need help getting a business plan in place to start, if you need help securing some SBA lending in order to grow your business or get some equipment, really anything under the sun, our resource partners are able to help you. We have our Center for Women in Enterprise. They're located in Providence. You're able to get one-to-one business mentorship with them. They also have online trainings and in-person workshops, and they do a lot in Spanish. So if you have if Spanish is your preferred language, or if you know someone who speaks Spanish who is looking for some business help, they do have a lot of workshops in Spanish. There are also Spanish speaking counselors at the SBDC who can help you, as well as SCORE. SCORE is a network of retired executives who are able to help you anywhere in your business. And you can use all of these, right? You don't have to pick one. You can have a mentor in each of these. If you're interested in growing your business through government contracting, we have the Rhode Island Apex Accelerator, where they're able to help you with everything from getting registered in SAM to doing your capability statement, every step of the process. And then if you are a veteran or a spouse of veteran, this is the only one that is exclusive to only the veteran or veteran spouse community, is the Veteran Business Outreach Center of New England, or the VBOC. And they have one-to-one business mentoring as well, but it is specifically for the veteran community. And then I encourage you to join our email list. We send out 1 to 2 emails a week. We let you know what's going around in the state in terms of trainings and workshops. We have Are You Lender Ready form coming up in October, where you're able to meet with lenders and get some help on securing lending. So if that's on your radar, we also have a contracting series coming up. But if you join our email list, you'll get access to all of these trainings. We'll send you links to register. And then we're social. So join us on social. Please follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter. Stay up to date on what's going on. And we'd love to have you here. So that's it. We can,